I just saw Venom, The Last Dance. Let's talk about it, Eddie. So yeah, me and a group of friends just saw Venom, The Last Dance, the final Venom movie, theoretically. We've heard that this is the final, Tom Hardy's final standalone Venom movie, but at the end of this, it might seem that way, but we'll get into that later. This video will contain spoilers for Venom: The Last Dance, so you have been warned. So I'm just going to start by saying that I definitely liked it more than Let There Be Carnage, but I'm torn whether I like it more than the first one. In my opinion, Let There Be Carnage is the weakest Venom movie. My biggest problem with that is, well, first of all, Carnage isn't in the movie enough. I wanted more Carnage. He doesn't get to do that much, which is also a problem I have with the villain of The Last Dance as well. My biggest problem with Let There Be Carnage is the fact that Eddie and Venom get split up in the middle of the movie, and Venom and Eddie's relationship is the best part of these movies by far. And Last Dance is the only movie where we get them they are together the entire movie, which I like. I don't know if it's as fun as the first Venom movie. I'm going back and forth. I don't know which one I like more. I like the third act of The Last Dance better, but I think the first one might be funnier. I don't know. So the movie opens with Knull, who is supposed to be the main villain of this movie, even though he doesn't do anything, which is one of my biggest problems with it, because Knull was teased heavily, and we're like, oh shit, they're introducing Knull, but then he doesn't do anything. The true villains of this movie are the Xenophage, who are these creatures that we see in the trailers that Knull sends after Venom. But they're the ones that we see throughout the entire movie. We literally see Knull at the beginning and the end of the movie, and he doesn't do anything. He just sits in a chair. But they are setting up something with him that I'll get into later. So yeah, unfortunately Knull doesn't get to do anything. But then we cut to actually the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, which I was not expecting, where we see Eddie in the bar, and they changed it. Instead of him glowing and fading away in No Way Home, he gets sucked through a portal back to his own universe. And when we see Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, General Rex Strickland, when we see him put the tube over the little piece of Venom that's left behind, that is in the Venom universe, in the Sony universe. It does not take place in the MCU, so it's not a retcon like we initially thought. So there is still a piece of Venom in the MCU, but it's just and then we go through this whole sequence where Venom makes a cocktail or something, and he ends up leaving a piece of him behind in his own universe, which is what Strickland captures. So we follow Eddie in Mexico. He takes out these dudes running dog fights, so that's good. And everybody is after Eddie Brock because we catch up with Patrick Mulligan from the end of Let There Be Carnage, and everyone thinks, because they find him impaled or whatever, and they are blaming Eddie for that, even though he didn't do it. So everyone's after Eddie, so him and Venom decide they need to go to New York because Venom wants to see the Statue of Liberty. So basically what Knull did is he sent all these Xenophage creatures through different worlds to find Venom, and the reason Knull needs Venom is because he has what's called the Codex, which is something that only Edom and Vetti, couple names, but Eddie and Venom are unique because Eddie previously died in the first Venom, I think they showed, and Venom brings him back to life, which means they're permanently bonded through this Codex, and it can only be destroyed if one of them dies. The reason Knull needs the Codex is because it is the key that will free him from this prison he's trapped in or whatever. He's just stuck in this place full of Xenophages, and these Xenophage things can't be killed because they one gets sucked into a jet engine and it just gets shredded to pieces, but it just morphs back together. I don't know if it's a hive mind situation, because I mean it's kind of teased at the end that they maybe killed them, but I don't really know because Venom was involved in that too. So it's almost, it might be a hive mind thing where it's you gotta kill the source, so you gotta kill Knull in order to destroy all these things. But then we get to see all like the Venom animals in this movie, which is only 3, but it's still fun. We saw the Venom horse, which is in the trailer. There's also a Venom fish and a Venom frog, so that's just cool. And then in the end credits, you see like all these different animals, like the Venomized, and it's pretty cool. So Venom and Eddie end up getting chased by Strickland, and then the Xenophage shows up and kills Strickland's men, and he gets all pissed. So then Eddie meets up with Rhys Ifans' character, who is not Lizard, Kurt Connors, like we theorized. His name is Martin, and he has a family, a wife, 2 kids, a daughter and a son, and a dog named Blue. And he is like obsessed with aliens. And like a thing going on in the background of this movie is like Area 51 is being decommissioned or whatever, which is where we meet Dr. Teddy Payne, who has a weird backstory that's kind of shoehorned in there, where something with her brother, she got struck by lightning and it ended up killing her brother. I don't think that's how lightning works, but whatever. Like, her and her brother were holding hands, she gets struck by lightning, he dies. I don't know. And it didn't really have anything to do with the rest of the movie. I'm not even sure why it was in there. She might have used, like, speed powers or something toward the end, but that might have just been the symbiote that later bonds with her, so I don't know. But we get to see a lot of different symbiotes in this movie, and they come in the third act. It's pretty cool. But something that's really disappointing is Toxin, because we have Patrick Mulligan from the last movie, and he is bonded with the Toxin symbiote, and the Toxin symbiote looks really cool, but all it did was provide like exposition to the other characters, and it didn't get to do anything. Like, as soon as Toxin gets released, he gets eaten by a Xenophage, which was very disappointing to me, because you had that whole setup and then did nothing with it. The scenes with Toxin are really good. I really like those scenes, but it's just he didn't end up doing anything, which is pretty disappointing. Anyway, Eddie hitches a ride with Martin and family to Las Vegas, and he kind of bonds with this little kid. I can't remember his name. We theorized it was Peter Parker. It wasn't. So Eddie gets to Vegas, and he goes to the casino where he meets Mrs. Chen. And the weirdest scene in the movie takes place where Venom and Mrs. Chen, like, dance together. It's very weird. Like, do Mrs. Chen and Venom have a thing for each other? Like, it was very weird. I didn't know Mrs. Chen was freaky like that, but, I mean, you do you. So the Xenophages are always after Venom, but the trick is they can only see the Codex if he's in, like, Venom form. So if he's just Eddie, or if, like, where he has, like, Venom, like, coming out of his back or something like that, they're fine. The Xenophages can't see the Codex then, but then if he turns into Venom, they can see the Codex, which is how they track him down. So Venom turns into Venom form to dance with Mrs. Chen, and then a Xenophage finds him, and it was just kind of stupid. But then he turns back into Eddie, the Xenophage leaves, but then Strickland comes in and captures Eddie and Venom. He separates them and captures them. And like throughout this whole process, you're kind of on Strickland's side, but specifically Dr. Payne is like, no, you can't destroy these creatures. We need to study them, science. And Strickland's like, nah, my men died. Screw you. But like, you kind of side with Strickland though, because you're like, yeah, these things are clearly a threat, and like, the only way to stop these Xenophages is to kill Eddie or Venom, so he straight up shoots Eddie, but then Venom was bonded with another scientist, so he gets back into Eddie, and then, yeah, they're back together. So then Toxin is also released, but then immediately gets eaten by a Xenophage, unfortunately. And then the whole final sequence takes place with just all the symbiotes are released, bonding with scientists to fight this Xenophage, and it's pretty awesome. I don't know the names of any of these symbiotes, but a lot of them looked really cool. Most of them died like pretty quickly, but there were 2 symbiotes that like bonded to each other, and there was like this 2-headed like symbiote. It was really cool looking. There was this one green one that like almost had like Carnage like abilities, where she could create weapons with her tendrils and stuff. She was the one that like survived the longest, and she was pretty cool. And then there was this purple one that bonds with Dr. Payne at the very end, and she has like electric powers. It's pretty sick. Oh yeah, and throughout all this, Martin and family have snuck into Area 51 for some stupid reason. And oh, shocker, they get caught in the crossfire of the giant alien battle. Shocker. It was like giving Gwen vibes from like Amazing Spider-Man 2, like, why are you here? You should not be here. So huge battle, long story short, eventually Venom and Eddie, Venom makes the choice to separate from Eddie, and he kind of absorbs these Xenophages, because there's multiple at this point, because they found the Codex, so Knull sent like all of them after him. As in all, I mean like 4. There were like 4 of them. So Venom like wraps up these Xenophages, brings them over to like a acid dispenser that they were using earlier in the movie to like melt down things because they were like discontinuing Area 51 or whatever. And then Strickland unleashes like all the acid on Venom in these xenophages, and Venom supposedly dies, meaning that the Codex is now broken because one half of Eddie and Venom is gone. But how much do we really believe that Venom's dead? I mean, come on now. So the movie ends with just Eddie like walking through New York City, just having flashbacks to all the good times with good old Venom, even though he has a flashback to like the rave scene from Let There Be Carnage, even though Eddie wasn't even there for that. By the way, Eddie was like pardoned from all his supposed crimes that he was wanted for because he like saved the world, and it just ends with him looking at the Statue of Liberty. I won't forget you, friend. And there is a post-credit scene showing Knull basically saying, I'll be back. It could have just said Knull will return. That's basically all it was, because they're clearly setting up him to return later on, which hopefully they do him justice because he didn't do anything in this movie. So overall, I enjoyed Venom: The Last Dance. I really like Tom Hardy's portrayal, and I love that he plays both Eddie and Venom, and just their relationship is by far the best parts of these movies. Even though I didn't feel they had like as much back and forth in this one as they did in the previous one. Like, there wasn't as many jokes and it was a lot more serious. Which is why I think I might like the first Venom more, just because it is more fun, even though I do like the third act of this one better. But if we can just ignore the fact that they're Spider-Man villains, because like they made the symbiotes are like, they're not I think they even said in the movie, it's like, we are not the bad guys. Like, they're trying to make the symbiotes like victims or something, which, I mean, okay, fine. I feel like they should be villains, but whatever. It's like Riot and Carnage are like the two bad ones, and everyone else is fine. So I don't exactly know what this means for the future of Venom, and Tom Hardy's Venom specifically. We still have that symbiote left over in the MCU that hopefully comes into play in Spider-Man 4. But at this point, all we want to see is Spider-Man versus Venom. Like, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing any more Venom movies. I honestly hope they don't, because like, we just want Venom versus Spider-Man at this point. We don't need any more Venom movies. It's a fun enough trilogy, we can just end it there. And they're obviously setting up Knull to be like a multiversal threat possibly, so that could be cool. If we're done with this version of Venom and we can get one in the MCU, that would be cool. So overall, I enjoyed Venom: The Last Dance. Some disappointing areas here and there, like the killing off of Toxin so quickly and just Knull not doing anything. But other than that, I had a good time with it. So that's going to do it for my review of Venom: The Last Dance. If you've seen it, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.